The first information that I had about the Cabarrus Rotary Club was when I received a phone call one day from Bob Meisenhammer. And Mr. Meisenhammer said, we're the Concord and Kannapolis Rotary Clubs have come together to form a new club that will be a morning club that we're getting organized, and we're going to have an organizational meeting, and we would like for you to be there. Well, respecting Mr. Meisenhammer as I do, and him being my elementary school principal, my response was, yes sir, Mr. Meisenhammer, I'll be there. And so he gave me the time and date of that meeting, which I believe was in June of 1985. So I went on about my way on that, and then a few days later I got a phone call from Troy Day, another person who I very much respect in the community and has done a lot of things for me over the years. And he said, have you received a call from Bob Meisenhammer? And I said, yeah. He told me about the meeting. He said, well, we've been talking, and we think you need to be the secretary of this new club that we're organizing. You know, my thoughts were, well, I never even agreed to be a member. I just agreed to come to the meeting. Both the Concord and Kannapolis clubs had invited folks from the community to come in to gauge their interest in being involved in a new club. It was a great meeting. I knew a lot of folks there, and a lot of folks knew each other, and they had representatives from both of the clubs there. I think Mike Coltrane headed up that effort for the Concord Club, and Troy Day for the Kannapolis Club in their expansion committee. I met Buddy Burrell there at that organizational meeting. At the time, he worked with Mike Coltrane at First Charter Bank and had some previous experience in Rotary, was a new guy in town, and they had recruited him to be our charter president of the club. And I think it was the responsibility of the organizational committee to get the president and the secretary to handle the business of the provisional club while they were going through the process of chartering. Our charter was officially issued on September the 11th, 1985, and we had our chartering night on October the 22nd of 1985. Had a lot of folks from the district that were there that had been involved in helping with the club. We were actually in a different Rotary district than we are in today, which involved a lot of folks north of us in High Point and Greensboro and up in that area. So it was a great event. We met, we had our organizational meeting at what was then the Holiday Inn in Concord. I think it's now a Howard Johnson, but that location was selected specifically because of where it was. It sat right next to 85, right on the Concord-Kannapolis line, and that was one of the things that we decided early on in the club. We wanted to try to be a county-wide club. You know, we were, in a matter of 4 or 5 months, we were off and running, and I'm just delighted and thrilled that we're still at it 25 years later.
In the early days, with regards to the Fellowship of Rotary Club of Cabarrus County, we had a couple of things in mind. Number one, we didn't want to be as serious as our parent clubs were. The second thing that we fell into, I guess, as much as anything, was the room at the Holiday Inn was a small meeting room, and there were very few Rotarians at the time, sometimes less than 20 folks on a Thursday, so it was a lot more intimate environment. The third thing, and this is the good news and the bad news scenario that we talk about in the new member orientation, is that we had chartered with 3 ordained ministers. So the jokes that were told from the podium had to be told with that in mind. The bad news is that we had no females in Rotary for our first number of years, and so some of the jokes pushed the envelope a little bit, as they continue to do today. We've had district governors that have complimented our club on the fun element, and I think that's something that's real important. Yes, we've got greeters at the front door with red Rotary greeter badges on, but more important than that, I think the membership is welcoming, is nurturing, is respectful of the fact that we don't just represent ourselves, but we represent careers, we represent churches, we represent other civic organizations. Certainly a number of us represent the Chamber of Commerce, but we represent Rotary in this community, and we do it in a fun way, and I've always enjoyed that about our club.
When the club was formed, the end of 1985, during the year 86, we batted around different ideas of what we could do to raise money. At that time, I was involved with the Cabarrus basketball club, which was an organization that had been formed to promote youth basketball in Cabarrus County. And so we had used that as kind of a mechanism for kids to be able to play basketball. And the basketball club had tried to run some state tournaments, and they were very good at the basketball end of it, but nothing else seemed to work for them. In, I believe it was October of '86, Buddy Burrell and I decided to meet with the basketball club, which we did. We presented the idea of us doing kind of a joint venture to start off with and see how that would fly. And so in '87 was the first tournament. We did it in conjunction with the Cabarrus basketball club and did the very first tournament. There were really two factors that caused us to make the decision, both after meeting with the basketball club and as a Rotary club, was that we wanted to be involved in the youth in the community. I had been president of the Boys and Girls Club, and a couple of other members had been really involved in Boys and Girls Club. We were involved in basketball. So we felt like this was a good fit. And the other factor was that we wanted something that would involve all of the club members working. During the 90s, we were doing the T-shirts and we were doing programs, and our programs were getting better, and it just kept evolving into something bigger and bigger. Then we had to go to the Hoop Stars Invitational, which just really blew things out of the water for the next 3 or 4 years. At the beginning, as far as the monies we were raising, it started out that we were splitting what we raised with the basketball club. And so we would only clear, and this was in '87 and '88, '89, we would make a couple of $1,000s is what we were doing at that time. As the tournament grew, and as we did different things, we kind of fine-tuned and learned how to better make the money, what to sell, what would sell, what wouldn't, those kind of things. And so it gradually, we would get up to where we were making $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, then of course $8,000 and $10,000, and then the last few years of the tournaments we were making somewhere between $15,000 and $18,000. The tournament actually ran for 20 years, from '87 to 2007, I believe. The monies that we raised from all of the different tournaments we did over that 20 years was right a little over $175,000 that we raised, and that money all went back into the community, be it requests for contributions from local organizations, into youth activities, into programs for young people, whatever. But every bit of that was the proceeds we have from the 20 years worth of AAU tournaments, a little over $175,000. And without the kind of people that we had all through the years, charter members, people that came into the club, people that are no longer in the club, they worked tirelessly, and it just, I guess it never really occurred to me that that wasn't something that I would do, as long as we were able as a club to do that and felt like it was beneficial for the club and for what our goals were.
I remember the day that I think it was Steve Foster, and I'm not sure who came with Steve one day, and sat down. They had scheduled an appointment. I was curious, of course, about what was going on, so they came and sat down in my office and mentioned the fact of joining the Rotary Club. Well, I didn't really know a whole lot about it, but I knew that was something I probably would really like to do, because my dad was already a Rotarian from way back, and that was my first year as a dealer, so I was just trying to get my feet wet in the business and in the community, and Dad, of course, was gently pushing me toward becoming more involved. And I knew that Rotary would be way up there on his list, along with the United Way and some of the other things in town that he felt very strongly about. So of course I was thrilled to death to do that and to be invited to come visit, and had no idea really, or I don't think I did at the time, that I was going to be the first woman. And really, in the business that I'm in, kind of being traditionally male anyway, being the only woman in the room or one of a few is not a problem at all. I don't even really notice it anymore, I guess, but don't really remember it being a big deal or anybody making a big deal out of it. I just started going to the meetings, and at that time we were meeting back on Branchview at Martin's, and it was kind of an intimate group and a lot of fun. So it was a great time. I've enjoyed it ever since. It didn't take long for other women to get involved and rise to leadership positions eventually.
Being in the leadership of the club was really helpful to me with my focus at Cabarrus College on the community service requirement that we had for our students. It was important to me to demonstrate that, and I couldn't think of a better way to do it than in Cabarrus Rotary Club, because this club is known as an active club. People would always say to me, "Oh, you're in that club that really does stuff." We've done amazing projects, and when people in this community want something done, they ask Cabarrus Rotary or Cabarrus Rotarians. 9 times out of 10, you'll see a Cabarrus Rotary person involved in any project of significance in our community. The men would just shake their heads when something new came along and say, "It's just those women." And usually it was. But they felt very comfortable saying that, and I would say we loved it, because they recognized that we were bringing something hopefully positive, but at least bringing something to the life of the club that was a little different.
Most of you won't remember this, but we were one of the first groups to get involved with the Adopt a Highway program. We had a route out at Cloverleaf and later out at Highway 73 west towards I-85. Many of us participated with the Stonewall Jackson kids, going out one Sunday a month. We fed them, we talked with them, we even made the mistake of playing basketball with them one time. We were way too old for that. Anyway, we stay real busy doing that throughout the year. We do a weekly route for Meals on Wheels. That's been so successful that both the Kannapolis and Concord Club have picked up routes of their own. Christmas has been a good time for us also. We do 4 days of Light Up a Life Tree for the hospice folks. We do 2 days for Salvation Army on the kettles. Basically what we do in the club is we work. Not only these things, but other people ask us. Alzheimer's, junior diabetes, cancer, all of those we've worked for. Communities and schools we've done a good bit of work for. But the thing I think I'm proudest of is our 3 clubs that we've helped form. The Mount Pleasant Interact, the Rotaract clubs at RCCC, and the nursing school, because many times they've outdone us. I hope in 2035, when we have our 50th anniversary, number 1, I'm here to see it, and number 2, we can say even more about service in our club.
What I like about that project is not necessarily the project itself, which is great, because what we're doing is adopting troops that are currently serving in Afghanistan or Iraq and sending them supplies that they don't normally get. I know they love that. What I like about that is the way that project developed. It was originally someone in my church who was serving with the National Guard, Paul Johnson, and he was deployed, and his family said that he would appreciate getting a few things from folks in the church. When I reached out to him, he said, "No, I'm good, but there are a lot of guys in my unit that don't get anything from home." So I thought, well, I can do that, and I can send 1 or 2 packages, or I can bring it to a group like the Rotary Club and ask if somebody would like to help. That one announcement at a meeting turned into a huge project. And a great project. We connected with that troop for a whole year and sent dozens of packages. Several people opened it up to their businesses and asked them to help, and they did. So you take an idea to a group like the Rotary Club, if they recognize it to be a good idea, they're going to run with it. And that's what happened with this project. And I'm very proud of what they did. I'm proud to be involved in a club like that.
One thing about our club is we've always had a lot of involvement with our district. I had the honor of being on the steering committee for the inaugural Flight of Honor for the district, and also got to be team leader on the first flight out of Charlotte. And the goal is to enable every World War II vet who wants to see the monument dedicated to them in Washington, D.C., to be given a chance to go see it at absolutely no charge to them. Everything is arranged for by the flight. They take approximately 170 to 200 vets per flight on a chartered airline. Then they get to Washington. They're greeted by a police escort, taken by charter bus to the memorial. It's an emotional experience that you honestly have to be there to go through. Our club has always been excellent at being at the airport to welcome the vets and the flight participants back with their families. It's been a good family event as well. One example, we were at the Iwo Jima memorial, which I had never seen before, and I was standing there and kind of looking around and realized the gentleman to the right was wearing the Marine Corps red and yellow jacket. And then in talking to him later, I found out he was there and witnessed the raising of the flag. The photo that was ultimately taken upon which that memorial is based, and just the honor of being in his presence and knowing what he did and went through with all the other vets as well. It really does, it's almost incomprehensible. And you know it means so much. This is the first time that many of these vets talk about it, and they talk about it to each other. They've kept it to themselves, have not discussed a lot with their families for the most part, and it really becomes a catharsis for them. And their families tell us that when they come home, they also start talking about things they've never talked to them about before.
The year that I was honored to serve as president for the Rotary Club of Cabarrus County, I set a goal for the club to enter into international service, because World Community Service was just not on the radar screen for our members, and it certainly is an important factor as we are part of an international organization. We were blessed with a team that traveled from our district in the year 2000 that went to Romania, and that team was led by Concord Rotarian Susan Smith. And immediately upon their return, they had a project that was partnered with the Alexandria Romania Club, which was actually chartered during the time that our exchange team was in Romania. And the Statesville Fourth Creek Club grabbed that project and really got the entire district involved with that, so that we all had that chance to get to know that little part of the world, in opening an English library. So Susan and I decided that we would travel, not only to be there for behalf of the ribbon cutting with the English library there in Alexandria, but to also use that as a discovery trip so that we could investigate other needs, knowing that we had those friends and those partners in Alexandria already established. Quite often with an international project, that's the most difficult part, is establishing that partnership with the international or host district and club. And because we already had that accomplished, we felt like there was enough need there for us to identify another project upon that trip. What really stuck in my heart were the children and the mothers of that southernmost portion of Romania. Very, very poor, where infant mortality is out the roof, and medical conditions were extremely devastating. But in coming home, we truly felt that with the medical resources that the Club of Alexandria had, many doctors that were part of that Rotary Club, that we instantly had, again, those resources to make something really important happen with a medical project, especially focused on pregnant women and children.
Bună ziua! That's hello in Romanian. I was very pleased to be part of a group that brought the Romanian World Service Project to help a clinic in Romania purchase a pediatric ultrasound machine for their group, and also part of the group that then went to Romania for the ribbon cutting and press conference that they had. One of the memorable experiences we had was the morning we got up and our host was unable to take us to the clinic, which was only 4 or 5 blocks away. So he had his handyman take us. Handyman spoke no English. So we got to the clinic, walked in, and I said, Bună dimineața, which would be good morning in Romanian. And they said Romanian back, and I said, we're here for the Rotary project. Nothing. I said, vorbiți engleză? Do you speak English? No. So then they said, wait. So we waited 5 minutes or so. A young man comes in and said, do you speak English? Yes. That's great. I said, we're here for the Rotary project. Rotary. I said, do you know Rotary? He said, no. I said, how about mama, baby? Mama, baby. He said, aha. They then took us out front, pointed up the street on the other side, 2 blocks, and we saw our fellow Romanians waiting on the doorstep for us. Unfortunately, the handyman, who spoke no English, took us to the clinic, but it was the veterinary clinic. But fortunately, we were able to participate in actually seeing a young woman see her baby on the ultrasound for the very first time.
The Rotary International celebrated its 100th anniversary on February the 23rd, 2005. Rotary International had asked all the clubs around the world to promote Rotary's centennial celebration and to give something back to the community. Cabarrus Rotary led a service project with the other Rotary clubs in the area, being Concord, Kannapolis, and Southwest Cabarrus. And that club was to, that project was to install community service showcases in prominent locations in 7 area high schools. These showcases promoted Rotary, they promoted the 4-way test, and they provided a place for the students to display their service projects. The installation of 13 junior Rotarians and the Veterans Day celebration. That touched me because, you know, the veteran aspect was really neat in itself, but I salute Lisa for having the vision to introduce the young children and grandchildren of our Rotary members into the world of service, because serving others is such a gratifying thing. It's the right lessons to be teaching kids at a young age, and to have had the honor of inducting that first class of junior Rotarians was one of the most memorable experiences of my life, and without a doubt the best meeting of my Rotary year.
Yeah, Junior Rotarians is a great program because it's so unique. We've got grandkids, we've got some of the older kids. I know my 2 girls have been involved in it for several years, and what I like about it is that it brought home Rotary and it became a reality to them. You know, your family hears about Rotary, they know you go to meetings and functions and do some service work, but when you can incorporate your whole family into this projects, it means so much. I know my girls have gained a true appreciation for service work just because of Junior Rotarians.
First year of Lunch Buddies, where you get a business person to spend 1 lunch a month with a kid at the Glenn Center. My first lunch buddy, the very first year, was a kid named Dylan, whose father was dying of cancer. And a month after school ended that year, his father did die. And the grandfather came back later, who I ran into, who's also a Rotarian in the Concord Club, and told me that I helped Dylan make it through the tough times of his father's cancer treatments, which amazed me. I mean, eating a pimento cheese sandwich with a kid 30 minutes a month.
For the Interact kids in high school, it's usually the first time they've been involved with a formal business and formal process. So they typically try to follow Robert's Rules of Order, and that's the first time they've been exposed to that. So it's a very good learning experience, in addition to the service projects that they typically target for the communities and their school.
Our college program, Rotaract, which you know pretty well because you were the district Rotaract guy for a couple, 3 years, we've done some great stuff.
We've had clubs at Cabarrus College of Health Sciences. We've had RCCC in place for several years, and we're very lucky that we've had advisors in place that have carried that program. The very strong Garland Fulp at RCCC, Melanie Gass at College of Health Sciences.
Yep.
Tremendous leaders, and they've done a lot for those kids. We're lucky to have them.
Yep. And we've had folks that have graduated from Interact, the high school program, into the Rotaract College program, both at RCCC and the Cabarrus College of Health Science, where that continuity goes to a new level in hopes of planting the seed where they can become future Rotarians.
Back in 2006, we started a second fundraiser called a Seafood Festival, and that was in addition to our basketball tournament, and we used that to fully fund the CARP project. Well, in 2007, when the basketball tournament started to go by the wayside, we needed to really ramp up and do something really good for the community and really good for the club, and therefore we wanted to expand the Seafood Festival. So it's known right now as the Cabarrus Rotary Seafood Festival. We're in our 4th year, and it's been a tremendous success for the club and for the community. This has been a fundraiser that we've been able to accomplish, raising anywhere from say $15,000 to $18,000 a year that we in turn give back to the community. We sell sponsorships, and within those sponsorships, mostly it's Rotarians that are giving the money to again fulfill our mission of giving back to the community. So it's been a true blessing. It's been a lot of fun. It's a group organization. All of our members are involved in selling tickets, asking for sponsorships, and just building relationships with other community members. We are really looking forward to having another fantastic year. One of the best things about it is it's just a good, fun place to be. Let your hair down, enjoy live music, all the seafood you can want, fried seafood, peel and eat shrimp. We obviously have steamed oysters that just go on for miles and miles, it seems. And that's really a lot of fun. Just a lot of camaraderie with our friends and our family, a lot of networking going on. And we expect to continue this fundraiser year in and year out and really start raising even more money so we can, again, give back to scholarships, a lot of the nonprofits here locally. And again, I think it's just been a tremendous success for us individually, and I really believe the community feels the benefits of these as well.
As president of the club this year, I'm especially proud to be part of the generation that will move us from our first 25 years to our next 25 years. As we move forward, we'll continue to cultivate and develop the rich tradition of fellowship as well as our civic and social philanthropy that has made us who we are.
Go.
Oh, you were just talking about it?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to ask me questions.
No.
Okay, do a little editing here.
Healy, pound 22, Texas Healy, pound 21, Ethan Tucker, pound 22, Ethan Tucker, pound 22.
Are you Ethan Tucker?
Yep. I don't have a 22
He's
to
a
pound.
nice guy.
I don't have a 22 to pound.
Gotta have the beekeeping. Are you on? All right. All right, good.
Thursday that Steve Morris was responsible for our program on beekeeping, and he just didn't show up. Out of 50 meetings that year, we had only one program that was a no-show, and it happened to be our own Steve Morris. And I'll probably never forget that.
The other major civic organization. Okay, we'll do that again.
Dave, if possible.
Yes, ma'am. Don't look down. Yeah, thank you.
A All right, I don't like that. Okay.
You're editing this a lot, right?
Yeah.
A lot of really cool things.
Take it away.
All right. You want to go ahead? You want me to start?
You go ahead.
All right. 1996, I was looking for a Rotary Club, and I chose to start over again because my name is Dick McMillan.
All right, let's take
do that one again.
Pause that a second.
Yeah.
Bună ziua! Bună dimineața! English-tă? Now, there was the time that we took the ferry across to Bulgaria, but I'll save that for another meeting.